Hi, good evening, and welcome to episode number 5. This is regarding my mom's timely warnings to me as a couple of times as I was growing up, which even though she was really actually very frightened of the paranormal, I do think that she was a sensitive and knew things in advance in a way, and also saw things. She was with me with the ghost dog thing, and so you have to be, I think, a little sensitive to see those things. So for whatever reason, she always encouraged us to be adventurous, as she was when she was little, which was wonderful. But she did, on a couple of occasions, kind of forewarn me about a situation that she just thought that I needed to know so I could be prepared. The first one was I was about 5, and sometime before that, a week or maybe 2 weeks before, she said to me one day, because as kids and all of us in the neighborhood, we did a lot of roaming, and even at 5, I was going out and playing with my friends and going to houses, and it was just a different time, and you could do those things without a lot of fear usually. But so this day, she said to me, "Oh, I wanted to tell you that if you are ever out and about and anybody approaches you, anybody wants to talk with you, someone that you don't know," this is, standard mother warning, really, don't accept anything from them, and if anyone says anything to you, you come home and tell me immediately. So a little time went on, and one day I was invited to a little friend's house a block or so away, and I set out. Told my mom, or she knew that I was going to be going to this friend's house, and I was going to walk there by myself. And it was, down to the end of the street, which is just the length of a one lot, and then across our street and up another block, and then up to this house. Well, I walked out the door and was on my way. Crossed over our street and walked down to the corner of the main thoroughfare, which was called Palm Avenue. And I see this lady. Now, across the street, our house, where our houses were built, there had been an orange grove, and there were orange groves above our project, and there were orange groves below our project. And so across the street at that time was still all for 4 blocks, orange groves. So I looked across the street, and there, sitting in her car, was a lady, and this car was old. I was born in 55, so this had to be 1960, and this car was probably 15 or 20 years old as I remember it. It was kind of a brownish color, and I think it was maybe an old Oldsmobile or maybe an old Hudson, something like that. I don't know. But so I'm on my merry way, and she gets out of her car and she calls out to me, and she's standing there. She's got on tan pants and a light colored shirt, and she's got her hair, a handkerchief tied around her head, and her hair is in curlers. And that was common. My mom did that a lot, because ladies put curlers in their hair and they had to wait for them to dry, and so it was kind of a long process. So anyway, she calls me from across the street, "Little girl, come over here." And I turned around and looked, and no, I'm not going to go over there. She's like, no, just come over here. And I was like, I don't think so. My mom told me not to talk to strangers. and not to take anything from them. And she says, "No, come over here. I will give you some candy." And that was all I needed to hear. And I took off running, ran the block home, across my street, into my house. And my mom was there, and I said, "Mom, this just happened." And of course, my mom bolted out the door to go find this lady. And she was gone. So I think that that lady, I can't imagine any other thing that she would need from me other than to coax me across the street. I think she probably was thinking about abducting me, and that was super unusual at that time. But indeed, it did happen sometimes, and it almost happened to me, if not for my mom's warning about that particular type of thing. And then the other incident was later, when I was about 10 maybe, and my aunt and my cousin had rented a house or a bungalow down on the beach, and I was invited to come down and spend the weekend with them. And my cousin was a little older than me, but I really liked my aunt, and I liked my cousin okay too. But so my mom dutifully drove me. I don't know why she didn't stay, but she drove me all the way down to the beach, and it's an hour and a half, 2-hour drive. And she drops me off and talks to my aunt and my cousin, and she leaves, and everything's fine, and we're going to spend the weekend. And about 20 minutes later, there's a knock on the door, and there my mom is again. And I opened the door, and she said, "I just wanted to tell you that if you get pulled out by the rip current and you're out there swimming and you can't touch," she said, "don't panic. What you do is you turn over and float. If you're too tired to swim, and don't try to swim in against the rip tide, it will, it'll just tire you out." And she said, "Roll over on your back and float, and eventually the waves will bring you into shore if you just wait long enough." And so that had never happened to me before, but that particular weekend it did. And a rip current, and the rip currents, they just kind of pull you out, and you don't even know that that's happening, and then all of a sudden you can't touch, and it puts you in a panic really quick. So I rolled over on my back and let the waves carry me in. And then when I was rested, I decided that I would swim in, which I did. And I was so panicked that I didn't stop swimming until my hands hit the sand. And I was exhausted and tired and wrung out. But I'm so glad my mom told me that. She'd never told me that before. And boy, that was the time that I really needed that. So never underestimate a mother's love and a mother's feelings about their children, because oftentimes they are way more prescient and very helpful. So I think if it weren't for my mom, I probably would have drowned, because it would have just been too much to swim back in. And I did love to be out on the water, and I was out there all the time. And back in those days, on the Pacific coast, you didn't have the amount of waves that you do now. You had a lot more swells rather than waves, because there were a lot less ships out in the water. But now it's just constant little waves when you're at the beach. So thank goodness for moms, and thank you for listening to my stories. God bless.